Stay, Mike, stay. Work, you piece of shit, Mike. Work. Stop falling. Alright, so today I'm going to be doing some board repair. I'm a little sick. Okay, a lot sick. I wound up throwing up at the gym. Got a little bit of a fever. But, as I've said, I am an AGRX investor. And as an AGRX investor, I have no choice other than to make as much money as humanly possible. That actually includes answering the phone, so let's do some of that before I get started, if I can get to it fast enough. This Bria mobile app is actually pretty awful. There's no way to answer if you don't have it in the... Hello.
Hi, is this Ron?
Yes.
So I saw your video on YouTube, and I have a 2010 MacBook that panics whenever the graphic card switching is activated.
All right.
Can you guys fix that, and how much is it?
It's $250 plus tax. Yes.
$250 plus tax?
Yes.
Okay, and when I can bring it in anytime?
Anytime we're open, yeah.
And you're open what time?
12 to 8 weekday, 12 to 4 weekend.
12 to 8 weekdays. Oh, okay, that's great. And then is it something I just wait there, or
No, you'd have to leave it pretty much.
I'd have to wait for it?
You'd have to leave it, yeah.
Oh, okay, and then do you need the power cable, or you guys have those?
No, we have a bunch.
Okay, and then how long is the warranty?
It's 3 months.
Okay, great. What's your name?
My name is Tagir.
Sagir. Okay. All right, Sagir. I'll come. Do I ask for you, or I just go in and anybody?
Anybody will be able to help you, yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot. I'll bring it in. And how long will you have it for?
Board repairs are anywhere from 2 to 5 business days usually. That one's a slightly simpler one, so it may be less time.
Okay, and then what would you do? You would just email me or call me or something?
Yeah, we email and call you when it's done. What the fuck
Right,
do you think we do?
So
Throw it away?
Just the computer, no power cable, $250 plus tax, a couple days. Great. Thanks a lot.
All right, you have a good day. Some of these... I never give my real name. It always extends the conversation. If you give your real... What I've learned is that giving your real name on the phone always extends the conversation. So I can't do it. Anyway, where was I? Ah, yes, the working everyday thing. So, my friends, I am an AGRX investor. So, as can be seen here, it is important to work every single day for a long time. So, even if sick, we will be at work. If dead, we will be at work. So, let's see. Is that mic comfortable? It's actually kind of comfortable when it stays. Let's see. What is in this chat? Okay. So, let's get started. And today we're going to get started on a MacBook Air. Let's see what's wrong with this MacBook Air. First thing we have to do is open MacBook Air, but it appears MacBook Air is already open besides one screw. Hopefully I'm not blamed for loss of screws, since I can see clearly that there is only one screw inside MacBook Air. Could be worse, could have bought Bitcoin at 19,000. No. Buying Bitcoin at 19,000 would have meant that there was a 50% reduction. Buying this meant that there was a 90 to 95% reduction. So I actually would have been better off buying Bitcoin at 19K. So let's see what little MacBook does. I'm going to plug in little MacBook using a real MagSafe because I'm using my power supply to charge my bike battery. And when I plug in MagSafe into this screws in the damn charge port, into little MacBook, it gives me, do I get a light? Will MacBook show me a light? MacBook doesn't show me a light. Let's try restarting my charger. Let's try unplugging the battery. Let's try unplugging. Aha! Okay, unplugging the battery, I get a light. So let's make some basic measurements on MacBook. Do we have our PP bus? Do we have our Pepe 3v42? And so on and so forth. Our Pepe bus is 8.5. Our Pepe 3v42 is 3.4. Alright, let's take the board out and see what's on the other side. So our two main rails are giving us what we're expecting. Our Pepe bus. This MacBook is 2013. I know. Old. Crusty. MacBook. Sticky MacBook. It's time to come out of the board, little MacBook. It's time to come out of the computer, little MacBook. That is one toughly screwed in little MacBook. Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, that was stupid. Good thing I didn't put too much pressure. Oh god, it's still stuck. Why are you stuck, little MacBook? Ah, because there's sticky stuff on you. Ugh. Dirty MacBook. Alright, let's get the DC in board and the fan plugged in so we have a nice testing infrastructure here. And if this is missing PM Sleep S4L, we can always go ahead and give it to Paul, who I think just walked in. Speaking of Paul, oh, we're just talking about you. I got a great job here for you, man.
That sounds terrible.
It's an easy little MacBook Air.
That doesn't sound right.
It's gonna be great, man. You're gonna love this MacBook Air. It's so easy.
PM Sleep S4L?
Yeah, I got some good writing footage today, but the phone, the stabilization sucks. Like, as soon as it starts...
The Osmo doesn't want to stay?
Oh, the Osmo doesn't even work. The Osmo works for about 10 seconds, and then it just flops and turns off.
The wind blows it that way. That's what I'm thinking.
That's the thing, like, it stabilizes. It does a shitty job of stabilizing, but then after 10 seconds, it just lets the phone fall. Like, it turns off. And then I have to stop for 10 seconds and then mess with the buttons to get it to stay back on. And that's not a knockoff DJI Osmo. It's the original one.
Did you read that? Does anybody use it on a bike? Is it meant for that?
I have seen a bunch of people saying it works like shit online. So I'm going to try updating the firmware, but if that doesn't work, I'm going to really shit on it in a review.
Well, I'm thinking the wind blowing at it's causing an extra force that it's not accounting for, and it wants to go vertical video or something.
No, it's not even vertical. It just, like, the motor turns off and it just drops the phone.
Really?
Yeah. It's such a piece of shit. It's an unimaginably terrible device as it is currently.
You going for breakfast? You need anything?
You getting a bagel?
Yeah.
Black seed?
Yeah.
Can I get the tofu herb spread thingy?
On what?
Uh-oh, did I grab the card that doesn't have a chip again? Oh, no, I didn't. I have a chip now. Surprise me?
You like everything?
I like everything.
Okay, never.
Almost everything. I like everything except Agile Therapeutics' CEO. Oh, yeah. He got owned. Okay, but back to work on little MacBook. Install the app for the Osmo. I did. It's a pile of shit. It's a fucking piece of garbage. Okay, so where was I here? Ah, yes. Opening up little MacBook and looking at the inside. So let's turn on the microscope camera and light and move around this board. So as you can see, there's no shortage of pubes on this MacBook. I see pubes everywhere. I see London, I see France, I see that you live a generally dirty lifestyle, and that causes your computer to suffer as well. So let's see if we can fix this problem caused by MacBook and dirty lifestyle. Alright. Now, it's hard to tell where pubes end and corrosion begins, but here we go. What's this? Ladies and gentlemen, I think we have some corrosion. Look at that. Alright, what else do we have? More corrosion. And clock chip has a teeny tiny bit. What's that? No good. TPS 51980, no good. So let's go over what each of these individual pieces are for on little MacBook. The first area of interest is going to be U1950. U1950 is responsible for creating PM, PCH, per OK. Let's take a look at this part of the schematic. So, on this logic gate, there's actually two of them inside. We have AllSys power good and CPU VR power good combining to create PM SOP good. Then if you have PM SOP good and SMC delayed per good, you get sys power OK on output and that becomes PM PCH sys per OK. Now, if we were to look for where we find PM PCH sys power OK, you'll see that we find that on the power section of the PCH, which on this board is integrated into the CPU. So let's go ahead and find that. So this is the System Power Management section of the PCH. You'll notice that all of our PM sleep signals are over here on the right, and we have a bunch of inputs on the left. So the way this works is if you have the inputs on the left, you'll get the outputs on the right. And PM PCH sys per OK and PM PCH per OK, per standing for per, of course, like power, are required for this to turn on. So let's go over to U1950 and see what's going on here. So it seems that there is corrosion right here around C1950, which is going to go to pin 8. That's where PP3V42 is going to be going into the chip, and you can see right here that that is entirely corroded. So this is a very common thing to fail, and when it does fail, you're not going to make your way to an SO state. So the first thing that we have to do is put, unfortunately, since I'm running out of flux, we're going to put 1 pol of flux there and remove that from the board. Let's turn on my fume extractor so we don't inhale any of this stuff, and continue. And this board, fixing this board is just one out of probably 10,000 board repairs required to make up for my Agile Therapeutics investment. So, let's fix this board. Got some flux over there. Mount a whiteboard on the floor, please. A whiteboard? What are you talking about? Hello, Paul Daniels. How's it going, Paul? How are you feeling today? I hope you're feeling good, Paul. Alright, let's take a look at these pads on little MacBook. Now those pads for PP3V42 don't look very good now, do they? So let's see what we can do with a T30-KN tip. We're going to try and scrape away a little bit and make this into a happy board. First thing I'm going to do is remove all of the lead-free junk solder, and then I'm going to try and scrape away and see if there's a pad under there. Now one of those pads I was able to revive on the upper right. On the upper left, there is no pad to revive. It's totally, entirely gone. There's nothing there. So what we're going to do is we're going to run a jumper wire underneath that chip. And hopefully that jumper wire will work. So first thing I got to do is dig out PP3V42, because PP3V42, where that capacitor is totally gone. So if I will show you on the board view over here, I love your streams and videos, very educational, greetings from Netherlands. Thank you. Appreciate that. So right over here where PP3V42 is, that is broken. This entire section is broken. But PP3V42 kind of comes up to here, and I could see that trace on the board. So that's what I'm going for right now. What I'm trying to do is, see, this is the ground, and that's where the pad is supposed to be for PP3V42. So I'm trying to kind of scrape this away so I can put the cap there, and then I'm going to run a wire from here to there. But before I do that, it's time for a bagel. I'm hungry. Thank you, Paul. You're a good man. You're a oh, thank you. Wow. Mmm. Mmm. Is Lewis eating over a board? You're damn straight I am. This machine is totally corroded. It has pubic hair and dirt all over the board. So, fuck it. It's gonna get ultrasonically washed anyway. I'm more afraid of my board contaminating the food than the food contaminating the board, by far. See, I can eat over a board, and one thing you may notice is I haven't gotten a single crumb on the actual board. Because I'm not a dirtbag. Teach you a lesson on how to eat over your laptop. Excellent apple juice, by the way. My bagel does not have pubes on it. Let's get back to little MacBook. Ah, yes. This messed up U1950 section over here. It's a good thing Paul came in as I was fixing a U1950 and PM Sleep S4L missing and missed all the no backlights I picked out of it. No. I'm kidding. This is the first one. Did you find something important? What's that?
An unobtainium thing.
Oh. The little USB-C thingy on the touch bar. Somebody called earlier today and asked if we would stream a touch bar and no image live. It's another repair shop that sent it.
And do what? Declare it a no-fix live?
Yeah, like smash it with a hammer, maybe.
Oh, I'll do that. I'd love to smash a touch bar with a hammer.
I would love to smash a touch bar with a hammer as well. Alright. So, let's do a little bit of creative wiring here. So the first thing I'm going to do is grab a cap off a donor board. So it's pretty cool that the current sensing issue... You know how like on a MacBook there's the ISL 6259 current sensing, which is important, and then there's SMC current sensing, which is who gives a shit? Apparently on that, current sensing is who gives a shit. A Hall error will totally stop the motor, but current sensing, it doesn't care.
But it just gives it full current.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It gives it full current even if... Because the thing what I've noticed is that the motor is considerably faster sometimes. Like it does things that it didn't do before.
So putting liquid metal on those current sense resistors would be a good mod.
Well, the current sensing doesn't work even though we replaced the resistors. You saw it was working before and then it didn't work on my way home. I had error 12, current sense error, as I was on the bridge at 44 miles an hour yesterday.
Because it worked just fine when I took it around the block.
Yeah. Did I say 44 miles an hour? I meant 14 miles.
While pedaling.
I meant, yeah, while pedaling. It was all pedaling. When I use the motor, I only go 20 miles an hour.
23.5.
23 miles an hour. I respect all of de Blasio's laws, even if his own police force doesn't enforce them because they hate him. That was interesting, because I was talking to somebody the other day, and they said technically using those e-bikes in a certain manner is not street legal, but the thing is that the police force hate de Blasio because de Blasio always throws the police force under the bus. So they're not enforcing it. This is all speculation from word on the street kind of stuff. But supposedly they're not enforcing it because they hate him, and it's something that he was talking about. Okay, firstly, screw that. Okay, forget the capacitor for now. Let's just see if I can get the wire there. So that was interesting. A little bit of New York City politics for you. Copass is back? No. No. No! There is no Copass. Somebody asked if Copass is back. He's on an extended leave. That's the thing. I don't think it's petty. I think it's petty when you decide we're going to get rid of the L train for a while. All of our trains are going to run like complete garbage. The streets are totally crowded. We care about climate change. We don't want climate change. Climate is bad. Emissions are bad. Oh, don't ride an e-bike. It's terrible that allows you to travel to work in 15 minutes. Not take up traffic in the streets. Not keep the subways overcrowded. And get rid of carbon emissions. It's like, fuck you. Seriously. Fucking fuck you. We care about carbon. No, you fucking don't. We care about climate change. No, you don't. No, you don't. If you cared about climate change, if you cared about any of that horse shit, what you would fucking do is not make it illegal for people to get to work using tools that do not emit emissions. But you don't. Because you're an asshole that just likes the virtue signal. You don't give two shits of a fuck about climate change. You don't give two shits of a fuck about traffic or emissions or... Because that's the thing. You can make such more efficient usage of the roads, the side roads, the bike lanes, and all of that right now than what's actually being used. And people could actually stop being late to work. But no. Such horseshit. Alex would still be late to work, probably. But that's what Paul says. I actually care about things like emissions and clean air and all of that. So I run, or I ride my bike, or I ride my bike with an electric motor rather than a gas motor. But nope, gotta make that. Definitely gotta be against the law, because we're in New York and we just make laws for shit. We have a law for everything. We have a law that says if you don't put the business license number on the right part of the fucking receipt, that we can fine you $1,000. It's gonna be. It's such a failed city. It's just, and it's gonna keep going downhill. Because people are going to realize that with the internet and with the new economy, you don't need to be in some stupid centralized location anymore to make money. You know that, and that you don't have to live in a city where everything is expensive for no good reason anymore. It's like, it's just, that's so 1990s. Okay. Come on, grab the wire. Those tweezers are far too fucked to grab the wire. Is there a safe and bloodless trick to getting A1707 cases open? I usually give it to assistant. An assistant will open sesame it. I've heard terrible things about the New York City subway. Oh, it's a steaming pile of shit. It's a seriously steaming pile of shit. It will make you depressed. It's bad for your health. It's bad for your... The New York City subway is garbage. It's an inexcusable steaming pile of garbage. The amount of times I've had to go backwards to go forward. What's your opinion on Alexandria Cortez? I don't think she really... I think she got elected on a wave of getting aggravated at things, and like she was aggravated at the right things at the right time. But yeah, I'm definitely not a socialist. Not. There was one thing that she mentioned that I have some questions about, like, you know, for the idea of if you don't rent out, if you buy a building and then all the tenants leave and you just leave it unoccupied for years, that we're going to fine you. That I kind of get. You know, it's one thing if you're buying a building in the middle of nowhere, but if you're going to buy a building in Manhattan and just for the purpose of having it as an investment property and you choose not to rent it out for 10 years, that's kind of a dick move, and I think that you should have to explain why you're doing that in a manner that makes sense rather than just, yeah, we just... Yeah. You're going to have to explain that better to get away with it. That was one thing that she was talking about that I agreed with. But the rest of the whole socialist platform, no. But you have to think of all the children that crazy people with run down with their e-bikes. Yeah, how many kids die already because of cars and people that drive cars with licenses? It's one of the leading causes of death in the U.S. Nobody gives a shit. But oh my god, somebody may ride a bike that has a motor attached to it. No! How many people die due to e-bike deaths in the United States? How many people die due to car accidents in the United States from licensed drivers? I'm not even talking about, you know, some 16-year-old kid that joyrides their parents' shit before they get a license. I'm talking about people that have a driver's license, that have been driving for 5 years with experience. How many people die in those situations? Probably a ton. But that's not an issue. We gotta focus.
More people died from slip and falls this year than e-bikes.
More people probably died from having a vending machine fall on them than people who died from e-bikes.
Probably.
I think it's something like 6,000 or 600 a year. What was it?
I never heard that.
I think it was over 300 a year. Yeah, more people die from having a fucking vending machine fall on them than e-bikes. But you gotta make that illegal. De Blasio has to keep his rich donors happy by keeping people in cars. Yeah, de Blasio is just a steaming pile of shit. No, not to worry. You won't be able to own a car once Ocasio-Cortez is in power. The state will own everything. The fuck with that? The one, I was watching some old vids and you mentioned that you need more magnets. The ones that you have, do they lose their effectiveness or get lost? They get lost, or since business has been booming so much lately, which is great to make up for the agile investment, that that we ran out of them. Yeah, there's so many things, and there's also a lot of machines here that people haven't really called us back on or haven't picked up and stuff like that.
You can accidentally throw a wheel out too.
Yeah. All right. So now that I got a new container of flux, I can put a proper amount of flux rather than. So this here is going to be 2 poles of flux around this chip.
That's 3.
How many poles of flux is this?
That's 3.
You sure?
Not 4.
I think that that's like 2 poles of flux right there. I still want to know, my friend boards the NYC train, he has perfect connection, but as soon as the train moves, it drops his connection completely. That's because they have the...
Cell sites in the
Yeah, the cell sites are...
None in the tunnels.
Yeah, the cell sites are at the actual station, but they're not in the... They're not throughout the tunnel. What are you, crazy? What do you expect? How much do you expect from this city? Jesus. This chip has enough shitty pins that I'm just going to replace it. I don't trust this. Alright, so... I do think that the amount of landlords that have bought up property with the sole purpose of using it to hide illegitimate money from overseas that don't rent out the property at all and just leave the building empty have left an opening for democratic socialists to come in and say what the fuck is up with that. You know, it's a pendulum, and I think... But at the same time, I don't want the city to get even more socialist than it already is. But they, you know, they're bringing it on themselves to some extent. I actually emailed and I called a bunch of real estate offices for high-end real estate, and I said, you know, I'm hearing a lot in the news from people villainizing landlords and saying that there should be a fine if you don't rent out properties for a certain amount of time or leave them vacant. Everything that I've been hearing in the news is very anti-landlord. I'd really like to get the other side of the story. I have a channel on YouTube with 450,000 subscribers, and I would be more than happy to have an interview with you to discuss your side of the story. I did that to about at least 20 different real estate agencies and also management companies, because it's not just real estate, it's also management companies that manage buildings. I got 0 responses from any of them. And I didn't come to them saying, hey, how would you like to respond to the fact that people think you're pieces of shit? I went up to them and said, the news seems somewhat biased against landlords. I'm not sure what's true here, but I'm not hearing the other side of the story. Would you like to provide your side of the story and speak to an audience of 450,000 people? I got a response from 0 of them. So if they get fucked as a result of some of these new politicians, you know, and I'm sure I'm not the first one to do this. I'm sure that they would have had their chance to talk to many other publications. You know, if you don't want, the way I see it is you have freedom, but if you don't want to explain away when people believe that you're using that freedom to fuck people, if you don't want to kind of explain what it is you're doing or why you should have the right to do that, then if your freedom gets steamrolled there, you kind of brought it on yourself. I hate to say it. And yeah, there is an issue in New York City where you have a lot of apartments that are not rented out at all, and the people buy the buildings to hide money from illegitimate shit that they did overseas. Now, the numbers you see on the news, however, they're not exactly accurate, because let's say they'll say, there's 250,000 apartments that are vacant in New York, it's terrible. Like over 75,000 of them have maintenance going on right now, so you wouldn't want somebody living there? Especially with the laws in New York City, you could sue people for anything. Like, hell, if I would want to be doing maintenance on an apartment people lived in. There is a bunch of them where the building is owned by people over 80, so when a tenant moves out, they're not exactly the quickest up on their feet to find a new tenant. There's a bunch, I think over 70,000 of those, somewhere between 20 and 70,000 that are temporary homes. So people will live there 7 to 9 months out of the year, but not the whole year. You can't just let other people come to your apartment. Like, I can't let people in my store from the hours of 9 p.m. to, 11 a.m. the next day. That's just not going to work. I need my store to be my store. Just because it's unoccupied temporarily doesn't mean it's totally unoccupied. But at the same time, that still leaves over 100,000 apartments where it's just, yeah, homeless crisis in the city and all these people are out. So, again, some of the points that the democratic socialists make actually may have some basis in reality. And some of them, yeah, some of them are legit. But some of them are just based on a total ridiculous hatred for people that were somewhat successful or did something or made a decent choice. It's just a pure hate for the rich rather than a like for the poor, and a complete misunderstanding of how the economy works. It would have been really cool to have actually published an interview with a management company and really asked them the difficult questions and then given them the time to explain their answer. Not this interrupting bullshit you see on the news where one person talks and then 2 seconds later they get interrupted and then a panel of 5 people start screaming at them, because I can't watch that shit. It would have been nice to actually get the full side of the story. I think that would have been really fun. Alright, next. Ugh. Ugh. Gross. You buy a building and just have it as your building because you want to. Yeah, and the other thing is that thing with the apartments is driving up rent everywhere in New York City. So you have a neighborhood where apartments used to be $1,000 and now those apartments are $2,500 because there's so much increased demand to move there, because all the other buildings are now vacant since the people buying those buildings are deciding that they don't want to rent it out. So it kind of has this ripple effect and it fucks the entire community. Now there is the free market aspect of it where people would say, well, that should, eventually people should just, the right thing to do is move out of the city, and then New York City will fail and these landlords will get fucked by the market once people decide that they don't want their overpriced property. That is something that could happen. But then there's the rebuttal to that, which is, I've lived here for 30 years. Why should I have to leave because a bunch of fuckfaces with a few $1 billion decided to buy and sit on some buildings for 15 years? And that's also, point taken. Point. No! Alright. We're out of dirt in the floor and alcohol?
Yeah.
That kind of solves itself. No, I have to get some alcohol. I'll get some from Amazon Prime. From what I understand, Cortez doesn't want full-on socialism. She's looking for socialist policies to help the pup. Yeah, that's what they all say. We don't want socialism. We want democratic socialism. Democratic socialism and socialism. Yeah, no. Nice try. Democratic communism. Democratic fascism. Democratic, no. We want a democratic genius bar for repair. What's the difference between that and a genius bar? Yeah, it's like, fuck that. Alright. Here's an idea. Open up pop-up repair shops by squatting in dickhead landlords' properties. Now that would be fun. Problem is government made most people rich by corruption, but most people blame capitalism, which is not present. Yep. Somebody listens to their Peter Schiff here. You read his 2007 book, didn't you? I can tell that Dominique read his Peter Schiff's 2007 book. Somebody read Peter Schiff's book. When do you sell your stocks? I don't. That's the problem. All right. So let's see if this works now after a little bit of makeover. Get this big solder blob off of the board. All right, we're going to take, should I send 18 volts to MacBook or the 29 volts to MacBook that I'm using to charge my bike battery? You know what, I'll be good and I'll send 18 volts to this, just because. All right, let's see if we get a spin. Do we get a spin? Oh, fan spin. Look at that. That's a fan spin. That's amazing. Look at that. That's beautiful. Now it's going to spin, turn off, spin, turn off, spin, turn off, and then spin because it's a 3437. They do an RTC reset before they turn on, as does the 3435. And I'm going to turn on my ultrasonic. We're just going to clean off all those pubes on that board, and yeah, it'll be great. It'll work. It'll be beautiful. Some apple juice. All right. So I'll be back later with some other fun repairs. That's it for today, and as always, I hope you learned something.